So friends, we're going to take a momentary break from talking about election issues, and we're going to talk about what a federal judge just referred to as the, quote, farcical, close quote, Rudy Giuliani court appearance. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here, still here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here with you. But on this Saturday, we're going to take on a slightly lighter topic because it looks like Rudy Giuliani is about to be held in contempt by a federal judge in New York because he keeps violating court orders to turn over his stuff, his assets, his real property, his personal property, to the two Georgia state election workers that he savagely defamed to the tune of a $146 million defamation judgment. Of course, we're talking about Shaye and Ruby Freeman. Let's start with the new reporting. This from NBC News. Headline, Judge blasts Rudy Giuliani's farcical excuse for failing to turn over assets in defamation case. And that article begins, a federal judge chastised Rudy Giuliani on Thursday for offering a farcical explanation of why he hasn't complied with a court order to turn over valuables to former Georgia election workers he defamed after the 2020 presidential campaign. U.S. District Judge Liman made the remark in a New York courtroom after an attorney for Giuliani, the former mayor of New York, claimed he wasn't sure where some of his belongings are. Quote, the notion that your client doesn't have any knowledge of where his assets are located is farcical, Judge Liman told Giuliani lawyer Ken Caruso. Giuliani, a one-time personal attorney to President-elect Donald Trump, had been ordered to transfer personal property, including cash accounts, jewelry, and valuables, to former election workers Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shaye by October 29 in order to begin complying with the $146 million defamation judgment. The judge ordered Thursday's hearing after attorneys for Freeman and Moss said Giuliani had failed to turn over any of the items he was expressly ordered to surrender, which include a signed Joe DiMaggio jersey, a luxury watch collection, and jewelry. Lawyer Aaron Nathan said that when they entered Giuliani's New York apartment last week, they found that the valuables and some furniture had been removed. In a court filing, Nathan, the attorney for Shaye and Ruby Freeman, noted that a real estate listing for the $5.7 million apartment, which Giuliani has to turn over to Freeman and Moss, had shown the framed DiMaggio jersey hanging in the living room. He contrasted that with a picture taken on October 31st when they entered the apartment, showing the jersey and numerous other items were no longer there. Quote, there has been nothing but game playing, Attorney Nathan said. Giuliani maintains the items have always been where he says they are, in his Palm Beach, Florida, and New York homes, and a storage facility on Long Island, New York, which he claims he cannot access. Giuliani told reporters Thursday that they, Shaye, Ruby Freeman, and their lawyers, they lied about items being moved. Friends, Rudy Giuliani has basically turned into a cartoon character. There was evidence in this case that he had the signed Joe DiMaggio jersey, which is probably worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars hanging in his nearly $6 million New York apartment. And then when Shaye Moss and Ruby Freeman, their lawyers, went in under court order to retrieve Rudy Giuliani's property to begin satisfying the money judgment that they won because Rudy savagely defamed them, you can almost see that sort of blank spot on the wall where the jersey had been hanging, maybe a nail with some wires, and Rudy Giuliani's defense, I didn't move anything. Well, and if I did, it must be in a storage facility that I can't access. This has turned into a damn cartoon, but there's nothing funny about it. But wait, Rudy had some other equally compelling arguments to the court. He said that, well, for example, they, Shaye Moss and Ruby Freeman, want my grandfather's watch. It's 150 years old. That's a bit of an heirloom. Yeah, Judge Liman said he regularly presides over cases in which debtors, big and small, have to turn over family heirlooms. But wait, there's more. Regarding a vintage 1980 Mercedes that Rudy brags was once owned by Lauren Bacall, here's what Rudy's lawyer said. Regarding the Mercedes, Caruso, Giuliani's lawyer, argued that his client should be able to keep the Mercedes, which Giuliani took to Trump's polling place in Florida on Election Day, and said it was worth less than $4,000. The judge denied that request and ordered Giuliani to hand over the title and the keys to the car in the coming days. And this quote from the judge, quote, "All the property must be turned over to the receiver, and if not, I will hold him in contempt," the judge said of Giuliani. So friends, let's briefly reinforce a couple of principles of law. When you lose a defamation suit brought by people that you savagely defamed, people who were just trying to ensure that we all enjoy a free and fair election, and you've been ordered to pay money damages, there is no heirloom exception. There is no Mercedes that Lauren Bacall used to own exception. There is no exception that allows the losing party to take expensive stuff off his wall, put it in storage facilities, and then tell the judge, well, I don't think I can access my storage facility. No, none of those are actual legal principles. So that brings us to contempt. Let's talk about how contempt really works. And the reason I want to talk about this principle of law, contempt, I wasn't just a federal prosecutor for 30 years. I also had the pleasure, and I would say the honor, of teaching at George Washington University Law School for 4 years. Thereafter, I taught for 5 years at GW undergrad, criminal justice, and I had the good fortune, really the honor and the privilege to teach students how the rule of law works, how it's supposed to work, how it's intended to work. And now, in this place in which we find ourselves, right, the legal upside down, I see my job, my mission, my responsibility is, at least in part, to keep talking about how the rule of law works, how it's supposed to work. We can't stop talking about that, even if it seems that the rule of law is not applied to the ruling class criminals, to the rich, to the influential, the connected, the political, the powerful. Even if it doesn't seem like the rule of law is being applied to them the way it's applied to the rest of us, we have to keep talking about how the rule of law works, how it's supposed to work, because only if we know how it actually works and how it's supposed to work, will we know when folks like Rudy Giuliani and others are ignoring it, are violating it, are laughing at the rule of law. So with that, friends, let's turn for just a few minutes to the law of contempt. What is contempt? Well, broken down to its essence, the judge orders you to do something and you don't do it. You flout the court order. You defy it for whatever reason. And then the judge, just as Judge Liman has said, this is your last chance. Give them your stuff, your assets, your property, or be held in contempt. So what does contempt look like? Well, contempt can take a number of different forms, but the two forms that contempt most often take are, one, a money fine. I am fining you $1,000 a day, $10,000 a day, until you comply with the court order. Well, when somebody has basically been taken for every penny he had because of his defamation of these two Georgia state election workers, money fines don't really mean anything, nor does he have the ability to pay money fines over and on top of the $146 million he owes Shaye and Ruby Freeman. But that is probably the most usual penalty for being held in contempt, a money fine. And that money fine is intended to encourage you to comply with the court order, $1,000 a day until you comply. But the other way contempt is often punished and enforced is by jailing someone. Let me give you a concrete example. When I was a prosecutor, if the grand jury had subpoenaed somebody because they wanted their truthful testimony in furtherance of a criminal investigation, and that person walked into the grand jury and said, "I ain't testifying." Now, not that the witness said, "I have a privilege that protects me from testifying," like a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, or an attorney-client privilege, or a doctor-patient privilege, or a priest-parishioner privilege, or a spousal privilege, or executive privilege. There are lots of privileges that are recognized in the law that give witnesses some protection against having to testify under certain circumstances. But I have to tell you, friends, I had witnesses all the time that would be subpoenaed to the grand jury and would say, "I ain't testifying." Sometimes they wouldn't even appear. We had to get a bench warrant. They were taken into custody. They were held, and then the judge ordered them to appear before the grand jury and testify truthfully. Or sometimes they'd walk into the grand jury and just say, "Yeah, I'm not saying anything. Can I leave now?" So one way to compel their testimony is to go to the court and ask that they be held in contempt if they continue to refuse to testify. And under those circumstances, depending on the person, depending on what their basis was, maybe they were trying to protect a criminal associate and that's why they didn't want to testify, the court could order them jailed, detained, until they purge the contempt. That is where I think Rudy Giuliani is about to find himself if he doesn't comply with the court order and turn over everything he has been hiding, everything he's been violating court orders. He's been secreting from Shaye and Ruby Freeman. So when a judge orders somebody jailed because they've been found in contempt, what the judge will basically say, he or she will say some form of, "I'm also handing you, figuratively, the keys to the jail cell. You will only be jailed as long as you continue to be in contempt. You can use those keys, open the jail cell, go into the grand jury, and testify truthfully. Contempt done. You've purged the contempt. You've cured the contempt. But until you do that, you're going to sit in a cell." So Judge Liman, if Rudy Giuliani yet again offers these farcical excuses, farcical being Judge Liman's word, the judge could very well hold him in contempt and jail him until Rudy purges the contempt by complying with the court order to turn all of his property over to Shaye and Ruby Freeman. That's the way the law is supposed to work. Because if you keep letting people flout court orders, defy court orders, make a mockery of court orders, then all you're doing is encouraging more defiance of court orders. You're encouraging and rewarding lawlessness. So we're going to keep talking about how the rule of law is supposed to work. And you know why. Because justice matters. Friends, have a good weekend. Please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.